Dear friend, thank you for visiting our little haven called Books and More. Amidst the hustle and bustle of everyday life, we are here to help you extract the most original essence from the pages of great books. Books and More hopes to help you save precious time while retaining the core values and depth of knowledge. Have you ever felt the whirlwind of work and ambitions sweeping you away, to the point where you sometimes wonder where success truly lies? In this modern, pressure-filled world, the need to understand yourself and live a mindful life, knowing your own limits, is more urgent than ever. Today, Books and More invites you to step into a glamorous world, yet one also full of ethical gray areas, through the book Black Edge by author Sheelah Kolhatkar. This isn't simply a story about finance or dry numbers, but a profound and dramatic psychological portrayal of the relentless pursuit on Wall Street. The book will lead us deep into the empire of massive hedge funds, where the line between investment genius and lawbreaker becomes as thin as mist. What is the true price of exclusive information that yields enormous profits? Can people maintain their integrity when faced with the temptation of billions of dollars? And most importantly, in the race to the top, do we unknowingly cross the line of conscience? We believe that every story, even those about the hidden corners of society, offers valuable lessons for self-reflection, helping us to be more steadfast and insightful on our own path. Books and More will always be here, as a quiet companion, peeling back the layers of meaning with you. We hope you have moments of true tranquility and serenity and gain many valuable insights. Now, relax your mind and let's begin our journey of exploring this book. Prologue: The Flip. It is a sultry evening in July 2008. An FBI Special Agent B.J. King sits hunched over a desk in a windowless room in Lower Manhattan. He is hungry and tired, but his attention is entirely focused on the voices coming through his headphones. He is listening to a wiretap recording of a woman whispering to a man named Raj. She tells him that a tech company called Akamai is going to lower its earnings guidance, which is a disaster for the stock price, but a goldmine for anyone who knows about it beforehand. The man on the other end is Raj Rajaratnam, the billionaire founder of the Galleon Group, and he assures her that he is already shorting the stock. For Kang, this conversation is the smoking gun he has been waiting for, because it represents clear and undeniable evidence of insider trading. While Rajaratnam is a flamboyant figure who loves the limelight, Kang is a disciplined investigator who understands the value of patience. He has been living in this wire room for months, listening to traders casually swap illegal secrets as if they were discussing the weather. As Kang and his colleagues map out this network of corruption, they realize the rot spreads far beyond Rajaratnam. One name keeps surfacing in their investigation, which is SAC Capital Advisors, a massive hedge fund run by the mysterious and incredibly successful Stephen Cohen. Kang becomes determined to follow the trail wherever it leads, and he sets his sights on flipping witnesses to get inside these closed circles. The narrative shifts to a quiet street in California, where Kang and his partner confront a hedge fund manager named Ali Farr. They play him a recording of his own voice sharing illegal tips, and the reality of his situation crashes down on him. Kang offers him a lifeline, which is to cooperate with the government to avoid a long prison sentence. Through Farr, the FBI gains access to his partner, C.B. Lee, who had previously worked at SAC Capital. The agents convince Lee to cooperate, and he attempts to reconnect with Stephen Cohen to gather evidence. When Lee calls Cohen to offer him inside information on technology companies, Cohen is interested, but characteristically cautious. He refuses to discuss the details over the phone and later suspects that Lee might be wearing a wire. This prologue sets the stage for a massive federal crackdown on Wall Street corruption. It introduces the concept of the Black Edge, which is the illegal inside information that gives traders a guarantee of profit rather than just a strategic advantage. It describes the evolution of the hedge fund industry from a niche investment vehicle into a dominant financial force, where the pressure to achieve impossible returns drove many to cross the line into illegality. This story is not just about the arrest of one man, but about a systemic culture of cheating that permeated the highest levels of finance and the relentless effort by law enforcement to bring it to light. Part 1. The Rise of the Edge. The story of Stephen Cohen does not begin in the mahogany-paneled boardrooms of the old Wall Street establishment. It begins with a hunger born in the middle-class suburbs of Great Neck, Long Island. Unlike the scions of finance who coasted on family names and connections, Cohen was a grinder. He was the kid who learned about risk not in a classroom, but at the poker table. At Wharton, while others studied economic theory, Cohen was taking his classmates' money, learning that the only thing that mattered was reading the player and calculating the odds. He wasn't there to be part of a club, he was there to win. His career started at Gruntle & Co. in 1978, a firm that was far from the white shoe prestige of Goldman Sachs. Under the wing of Ron Iser, Cohen learned the ropes of options arbitrage, a relatively low-risk strategy at the time. But he quickly realized he had a supernatural talent for reading the tape. He could feel the market's pulse, predicting the tick-by-tick movements of stock prices with an intuition that seemed almost mystical. He moved from safe arbitrage to directional bets, taking massive risks that terrified his superiors but generated enormous profits. However, the pursuit of profit pushed him close to the line early on. In 1986, the SEC investigated his trading in RCA regarding a merger with GE. It was a terrifying moment for a young trader. Cohen was called to testify, and rather than explain himself, he invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The investigation eventually fizzled out, but the lesson was seared into him. Silence works, and the government is an adversary to be outmaneuvered. His legend was cemented during the crash of 1987. While the rest of the street panicked, Cohen sat amidst the chaos, coolly betting against the market. He made millions while others lost their careers. But his professional success masked a turbulent personal life. His first marriage to Patricia crumbled into a bitter divorce, characterized by fights over money and assets, foreshadowing the way he would ruthlessly compartmentalize his life. By 1992, Cohen was done making money for others. He launched SAC Capital with $23 million, mostly his own fortune. The culture at SAC was an extension of Cohen's own psyche, aggressive, unsentimental, and obsessed with winning. He surrounded himself with traders who had the stomach for risk, creating a trading floor that felt more like a boiler room than a financial institution. He brought in his best friend, Kenny Lissack, to handle the social side of the business, engaging with Wall Street brokers so Cohen could stay glued to his screens. Yet even friendship had its limits in Cohen's world. When his new wife, Alex, accused Lissack of making a pass at her, Cohen fired his best friend without hesitation. It was a clear signal to everyone at SAC. Loyalty meant nothing compared to Cohen's will. As the fund grew into the billions, the game changed. Pure trading intuition wasn't enough anymore. The market was becoming crowded with competitors mimicking his moves. To stay ahead, Cohen needed something more than gut instinct. He needed an information edge. He began transforming SAC from a shop of cowboys into a machine of intelligence gathering. He started hiring sector specialists, analysts, and doctors, people who could dig deep into companies and unearth data before it became public news. This shift brought in people like Richard Grodin and C.B. Lee, experts in the tech sector who cultivated sources deep within the supply chains in Asia. Cohen was voracious for their information. He didn't just want their trade recommendations, he wanted the raw data, the whispers from inside the companies. He became so obsessed with knowing what his traders knew that he installed monitoring software, dubbed the Big Eye, to watch their every move. The drive for status paralleled the drive for information. Cohen began amassing a world-class art collection, buying trophy pieces like a shark suspended in formaldehyde by Damien Hirst, and attempting to buy Picasso's Le Rêve from Steve Wynn. The art world, much like the stock market, was a place where money could force entry, even if it couldn't buy class. The Le Rêve deal famously fell through when Wynn accidentally put his elbow through the canvas, a moment of absurdity that seemed fitting for the excessive era. It was in this high-stakes environment that SAC recruited a young, polite, and seemingly brilliant biotech specialist named Matthew Martoma. He was brought into CR Intrinsic, a unit designed to be the Navy SEALs of research at SAC. Martoma, burdened by a secret past and desperate to prove himself, walked into a firm where the pressure to perform was crushing and the demand for edge was insatiable. He was exactly the kind of soldier Steve Cohen was looking for. Part 2. The Hunt and the Edge. The investigation into the dark heart of Wall Street began to gather momentum in the unlikeliest of places. I traced the story back to Michael Bowe, a lawyer who was tirelessly working on behalf of companies like BioVale and Fairfax. He was convinced that hedge funds were not just betting against these companies, but actively manipulating their stock prices to drive them down. Bowe's pursuit of the truth led him to a woman who had been harboring a decades-long grudge, Patricia Cohen. Steve Cohen's ex-wife was living in a state of financial anxiety and deep resentment, convinced that Steve had hidden millions of dollars from her during their divorce, and that his initial fortune was built on illegal insider trading dating back to the RCA merger in the 1980s. Bowe realized that Patricia's testimony could be the key to unlocking the secrecy surrounding SAC Capital. He arranged a meeting between her and FBI Special Agent B.J. King. While Patricia's information was old and difficult to prosecute, it provided the FBI with a psychological profile of Cohen and reinforced the narrative that his empire might be built on a foundation of fraud. It was a slow burn, but the government was finally beginning to look in the right direction. Inside the walls of SAC, the pressure was mounting. I followed the ascent of Michael Steinberg, a portfolio manager who embodied the firm's aggressive culture. Steinberg managed a team that included a young analyst named John Horvath. As the financial markets grew more volatile leading up to the 2008 crisis, the mandate from the top became clear. Traditional research was not enough. When Horvath failed to predict a bad earnings report for a tech company, Steinberg made it explicitly clear that he expected his analysts to find edge, a euphemism for proprietary, often non-public information. This culture of demanding impossible results drove analysts like Horvath to cultivate networks of insiders, turning the research process into a hunt for illegal tips. This desperate search for an edge found its ultimate expression in Matthew Martoma. A newcomer to SAC, Martoma staked his career on a massive bet involving two pharmaceutical companies, Elan and Wyeth, which were developing a potential blockbuster drug for Alzheimer's disease called bapineuzumab. Martoma needed to know if the drug worked before the rest of the world. He focused his attention on Dr. Sidney Gilman, a distinguished neurologist and professor who was overseeing the drug's safety trials. I chronicled how Martoma slowly groomed the elderly doctor, exploiting Gilman's need for relevance and connection. Through paid consultations arranged by expert network firms, Martoma extracted increasingly confidential details about the drug trials. Inside SAC, a war of ideas broke out. Other healthcare analysts warned Cohen that the drug looked like a failure based on the available data. However, Cohen sided with Martoma, building a position worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Cohen trusted Martoma not because of his analytical models, but because Martoma seemed to possess a level of conviction that only comes from knowing the answers to the test. The climax of this high-stakes gamble arrived in July 2008. Dr. Gilman received the final, confidential results of the Phase 2 trial, which showed that the drug was largely ineffective. In a gross violation of his professional duties, Gilman invited Martoma to his office in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and showed him the secret PowerPoint presentation containing the disastrous results. Martoma immediately flew back and called Cohen on a Sunday morning. The reaction was swift and brutal. The next day, SAC began quietly but aggressively selling off its massive stake in Elan and Wyeth. They didn't just sell, they went short, betting the stock would crash. When the negative trial results were finally made public days later, the stocks plummeted. While ordinary investors lost fortunes, SAC walked away with profits and avoided losses totaling roughly $276 million. It was a legendary trade, executed with supernatural timing. As Cohen celebrated this victory, the FBI was closing in on another target. The section concludes with the dramatic arrest of Raj Rajaratnam, a signal that the government was finally ready to bring down the giants of the hedge fund world. The investigation into insider trading was no longer a quiet gathering of facts, but an aggressive hunt. I watched as FBI agents like David McCullough began approaching potential informants in public places, cornering analysts like Jonathan Hollander in a Whole Foods to demand cooperation. The pressure was mounting on everyone. While McCullough worked his angles, B.J. King was relentlessly pursuing his targets, flipping witnesses like Ali Farr and C.B. Lee to build a roadmap that pointed toward the biggest players in the industry. The atmosphere had shifted from suspicion to open warfare. Then came the arrest of Raj Rajaratnam. It was a watershed moment that signaled the end of impunity for the hedge fund elite. Preet Bharara, the ambitious U.S. attorney, made it clear that this was just the beginning. Inside SAC Capital, the news of Raj Rajaratnam's downfall caused immediate anxiety. Michael Steinberg and his analyst John Horvath watched the events unfold with a sense of dread, knowing their own aggressive tactics might be next under the microscope. At the same time, Steve Cohen's past came back to haunt him in a different way, as his ex-wife, Patricia, filed a lawsuit alleging he had hidden assets and engaged in racketeering, dragging old skeletons out of the closet. The government's tactics became more visible and more terrifying for those in the crosshairs. The FBI raided the offices of Diamondback Capital and Level Global, sending a panic through the community of former SAC employees. The reaction was visceral and desperate. I chronicled the frantic night of Donald Longheel, who, in a fit of paranoia after reading about the investigation, took pliers to his flash drives and hard drives. He spent the early hours of the morning walking through Manhattan, dumping the shredded remains of his digital life into the backs of various garbage trucks. It was a scene of pure desperation, but it was futile. His friend Noah Freeman had already turned on him, wearing a wire to capture their incriminating conversations. Amidst this chaos, the story of Matthew Martoma emerged as the centerpiece of the government's case against SAC. Martoma was an enigma, a man who had reinvented himself after being expelled from Harvard Law School for forging his transcript. At SAC, he found a home for his ambition. I traced his cultivation of Dr. Sid Gilman, a renowned neurologist chairing the safety committee for a crucial Alzheimer's drug trial involving Elon and Wyeth. Martoma did not just seek expert analysis, he sought the answer key. The climax of Martoma's scheme was a masterclass in illicit information gathering. Dr. Gilman, charmed and manipulated by Martoma, leaked the confidential, disappointing results of the drug trial before they were public. Martoma immediately called Steve Cohen on a Sunday morning. The reaction at SAC was swift and total. The firm liquidated a massive position in the drug companies and reversed course to bet against them. When the bad news broke and the stocks crashed, SAC walked away with a massive profit, while other investors were crushed. It was the ultimate black edge. The cover-up, however, could not hold. Investigators pieced together the timeline and cornered Dr. Gilman. The elderly doctor, faced with the destruction of his legacy, confessed to leaking the data. When FBI agents arrived at Martoma's mansion in Boca Raton to confront him, the shock was so great that Martoma fainted on his front lawn. Yet, unlike so many others, Martoma refused to flip. He would not give up Cohen. The focus then shifted to Michael Steinberg and the trading of Dell stock. This investigation unearthed a smoking gun in the form of an email chain discussing a second-hand read from an insider at Dell. The email had been forwarded all the way to Cohen, placing him uncomfortably close to obvious insider information. Steinberg was arrested in his home, a moment that shattered his composed exterior. His trial was a spectacle, featuring the testimony of his former analyst, John Horvath, who had turned state's witness. The jury found Steinberg guilty on all counts. The verdict was too much for him to bear, and he collapsed in the courtroom, a dramatic symbol of how far the mighty had fallen. Through it all, Steve Cohen remained just outside the government's grasp, surrounded by indicted employees, but not yet in handcuffs himself. Part 4. Justice and Judgment. I watched as Stephen Cohen continued his morning routine during the remainder of that summer, sitting in the back of his Maybach for the 23-minute drive from Greenwich to Stamford. He was making a statement simply by showing up, sliding behind his desk in 12 screens as if it were any other trading day. He could do this because the major investment banks refused to abandon him. The commissions he generated were simply too lucrative to ignore. But while Cohen projected calm, the government was maneuvering to end the game. Preet Bharara's office and the FBI had realized they lacked the definitive evidence to indict Cohen personally for insider trading. Instead, they aimed their artillery at the institution itself. The prosecutors indicted SAC Capital as an entity, describing it as a magnet for market cheaters that fostered a culture of criminal behavior on a scale without precedent. It was a strategic pivot. Faced with the prospect of a long, draining legal battle that would expose every secret of his operation, Cohen chose to settle. The terms were historic. His firm would plead guilty and pay a total penalty of $1.8 billion. Furthermore, SAC would close its doors to outside money, transforming into a family office managing only Cohen's personal fortune. The scene in the courtroom was surreal. Peter Nussbaum, the general counsel, stood before the judge to enter the guilty plea. Cohen was notably absent. Nussbaum admitted that the firm had failed to supervise its employees and had allowed insider trading to flourish. The judge accepted the plea. It was a funeral without a corpse. The firm was technically dead, yet Cohen remained free, his immense personal wealth largely intact, ready to trade another day under a new banner. While the king bought his peace, his knights were left to face the dragon. Michael Steinberg, a man who was like a son to Cohen, was arrested at his Park Avenue apartment at dawn. His trial was a bitter fight. His lawyer, Barry Burke, tried to dismantle the credibility of John Horvath, the analyst who had flipped on him. But the evidence of the Dell trades was damning. When the jury returned a guilty verdict, the toll of the prosecution became visibly physical. Steinberg collapsed in his chair, fainting dead away in the courtroom as his wife screamed. It was a shocking moment that underscored the human wreckage left in the wake of the investigation. The final act of this legal drama centered on Matthew Martoma. He was the last line of defense, the only person who could potentially link Cohen directly to the massive Ellen and Wyeth trades. Prosecutors hoped the pressure would break him, but Martoma refused to cooperate. His lawyers attempted a last-minute plea deal to cap his sentence, but the government rejected it. They wanted a trial. As the proceedings unfolded, a devastating secret from Martoma's past was weaponized against him. I chronicled how he had been expelled from Harvard Law School for forging his transcripts to impress his parents, a deception he had gone to great lengths to cover up. This evidence, allowed by the judge, painted him as a man capable of intricate lies. The prosecution's case hinged on the testimony of Dr. Sidney Gilman. The elderly professor, frail and hard of hearing, took the stand to admit he had fed Martoma confidential safety data about the Alzheimer's drug. He described a relationship where he felt seduced by the younger man's attention. The timeline was lethal to the defense. The jury saw that Martoma had a 20-minute phone call with Cohen on a Sunday morning immediately after receiving the bad news from Gilman. The very next day, SAC began aggressively dumping its position in Elan and Wyeth, avoiding losses that would have devastated the firm's year. Though Cohen was not on trial, his presence loomed over every day of the proceedings. Martoma's defense argued that Cohen traded based on his own instincts, but the coincidence was too sharp to ignore. The jury found Martoma guilty on all counts. The aftermath was a scene of raw anguish. His parents stood on the courthouse steps, his father crying out against the injustice of a system where the man who made the lion's share of the profits was on a yacht while his son faced years in prison. Martoma was sentenced to 9 years. In the end, the government secured its convictions and levied record fines, but the ultimate prize slipped through their fingers. Cohen renamed his firm Point 72 and returns to the business of making money, trading his own billions with the same ferocity as before. He resumed his high-profile life, buying a Giacometti sculpture for over $100 million, signaling to the world that he had survived. The pursuit of the most powerful trader on Wall Street had ended not with a knockout blow, but with a settlement check and a rebranding, leaving behind a trail of broken subordinates and a lingering question about the true reach of justice. Part 5. Epilogue. On the evening of May 11, 2015, I found myself standing in the lobby of Christie's auction house in Rockefeller Center. It was a special night, a curated sale titled "Looking Forward to the Past," and the atmosphere was electric with the scent of extreme wealth. While Matthew Martoma was in the process of appealing his conviction and preparing for a life behind bars, Stephen Cohen was doing anything but keeping a low profile. He was right there in the thick of it, signaling to the world that he was still a force to be reckoned with. I had spent 3 years trying to arrange an interview with him, navigating a maze of gatekeepers and refusals, but that night I saw him walk through the doors just minutes before the auction began. He looked unassuming, dressed casually in a fleece zip-up and khakis, standing in stark contrast to the tuxedoed glitterati of the art world. I stepped into his path as he approached the registration desk and introduced myself. He stopped cold. He knew exactly who I was. When I told him I wanted to talk, he deflected with a smirk, telling me that he bet I did, but then he looked for an escape route. He wouldn't commit to an interview, offering only a cryptic "never say never" as he moved away. I managed to ask him one final question about his intentions for the evening, whether he was buying or selling. He told me he was selling. Minutes later, he ascended the stairs to the sales room. That night, he purchased a Giacometti sculpture for over $140 million, the highest price ever paid for a sculpture at auction. This moment perfectly encapsulated the reality of the situation. Cohen is a survivor. In the aftermath of the investigation, he did not hide. Instead, he reinvented his operation. He closed SAC Capital and rebranded it as Point 72 Asset Management, a family office dedicated to managing his own fortune, which stood at nearly $10 billion. He ruthlessly cleaned house, firing the senior executives who had helped him navigate his legal troubles, and brought in a former U.S. attorney as general counsel to sanitize the firm's image. He even launched an academy to train young college graduates in his trading methods, seemingly unbothered by the past. The legal threats against him had largely evaporated. The SEC case, which sought to ban him from the securities industry for life for failing to supervise his traders, was quietly settled in early 2016. He accepted a 2-year ban from managing outside money, a mere pause that would allow him to return to the hedge fund game by 2018. The civil lawsuits from companies like BioVale and Fairfax were dismissed, as was the suit from his ex-wife. While Martoma faced a 9-year prison sentence, feeling the full weight of the justice system, Cohen was free to sail around Greece and trade his own capital, making billions more in profit. It was also striking to watch what happened to the people who had pursued him. There was a massive brain drain from the public sector to the private sector. The prosecutors and FBI agents who had built the case against SAC moved on to lucrative careers at top law firms and investment banks. In a twist that felt almost satirical, the SAC lawyer who had supervised the investigation into Martoma left the agency to join the very law firm that employed Cohen's longtime defense attorney. It seemed that, in the end, the financial industry was simply too vast, too complex, and too well-funded for regulators to truly conquer. The aggressive pursuit of insider trading had resulted in significant convictions, Yet it also revealed the limitations of the justice system when facing a target with unlimited resources. The appellate court's decision in the Newman case later overturned the convictions of 2 other portfolio managers, making it even harder to prosecute insider trading and leading to dropped charges from Michael Steinberg. This legal shift essentially validated the don't ask, don't tell model of information gathering that had thrived at SAC. Ultimately, the government spent nearly a decade trying to pin down Cohen, yet they never put him before a jury. He paid a record fine, but to a man of his means, it was a manageable cost of doing business. He admitted no personal wrongdoing. As I watched him disappear into the crowd at Christie's that night, it was clear that the era of the hedge fund titan was far from over. Cohen had navigated through the wreckage of his own company and emerged on the other side, wealthier and perhaps more powerful than ever. He is still trading, still winning, and still buying whatever he wants. If you like this video, please click the like and subscribe button so that more people know about this video. Thank you for your support. Wish you a happy evening with your family. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.